The Q800T is Samsung's more affordable 8K TV for 2020, and in this video, like all the TVs I review, I'll be doing a screen test to show you just how the TV performs in a given condition, from viewing angles to tone mapping to everything in between. So stick around. Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech. Now, if you're new here, then on this channel we review, demo, and compare the audio and video tech that entertains you. So if you like that and you also like awesome videos, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and come along for the ride. So if you want to know the specs of this TV, then you should definitely check out my unboxing and overview video, and also check out the full review, which will be published a little bit after this one, depending on when you're watching it. So I won't get into any kind of specs. We'll be doing the standard suite of tests that I do for all the TVs I review. Now, this video is brought to you by me. So if you want to help support the channel, then make sure to check out the merch store for awesome home theater t-shirts, and this one in particular, the 2020 review so far. It's not been a good year so far, has it? Alright, so without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we'll be testing point brightness using this grid you see here, and even though the TV is set to its max brightness, we can see where the points aren't that bright as a result of how aggressive the TV backlight management is. Typically the points would be much brighter, but because of the backlight management, we can see where they are not. For example, this is how it looks on the LG C10 OLED. Next up is the star field test, and this is a difficult test, especially for an LED backlit LCD TV. On the right hand side of the screen, we can see where the stars are brighter than they are on the left hand side, and that's a direct result of how difficult this test is for an LED backlit LCD TV. The entire screen should have an even brightness level. There's typically a 1 second interval between where one test ends and the next one begins. This is again where the backlight management comes into play, and we can see where there is a large interval between where the previous test ends and the next test begins, which should not be the case. I use this grid to test tone mapping, and as you can see in the two brightest sections, there is no differentiation. So there is some clipping taking place, even though the brightness is set to only 2000 nits. We can see where there's some slight dirty screen effect, as well as some vignetting in the corners. The dirty screen effect will of course vary panel by panel, so your TV may or may not have the same issue. In these next chroma zone plate tests, which are used to test the TV's ability to resample and filter images, we can see where there are absolutely no errors and no issues. It handles the test very well, and this is a testament to how strong Samsung's picture processing is. The grid in this next test is used to see how aggressive the local dimming algorithm is by seeing how much vignetting there are in the corners of the bright squares. We saw in previous tests that the algorithm can be pretty aggressive, but we see more vignetting in these squares to confirm that fact. Next up, we'll use this quantization test to see if there's any posterization or banding in an 8-bit or 10-bit HDR image. And we can see in the 8-bit image that the gradient isn't that smooth and there is some banding, while in the 10-bit image, it is very smooth and there's no banding. Next out, we'll test the TV's blur reduction and judder reduction for fast-moving content like sports. This is how it looks with those features disabled, and as you can see on the lower part of the screen, the fast-moving content isn't that clear, but as we turn those features on, the blur reduction and the judder reduction to their maximum, we can see that it becomes much more legible. You can also note the lack of artifacting, especially on the vertical objects, as opposed to what we've seen in other TVs like the LG C10 and the Hisense H8G. Next up is the test of blooming using this bright pepper on a dark background, and as you can see as the objects scroll across the screen, there is an area of elevated brightness around each object caused by the blooming of the backlight. I haven't seen where modern Samsung TVs have a problem with motion interpolation, and that's no different with this motion interpolation test. The motion is smooth and there is no judder. Next is a test of windows to full field brightness to see how well the TV maintains its brightness as the area grows larger. As the window grows larger, there is some fluctuation in brightness as different backlight zones are activated. This 15% full field gray test shows us that there is some uneven backlighting, especially in the edges where it is brighter than the image in the middle. Next, we'll test the screen's ability to reject ambient light using my studio light set to 100%. And in both the darker and brighter scenes, the TV does a very good job at rejecting that light. Samsung has some of the best anti-reflective coatings on their TVs, and this is no different. This is how it looks compared to other 2020 model TVs. Next up, we'll use my custom HDR full array local dimming test to see just how many local dimming zones this TV has. And as that small square progresses across the screen, each time the screen lights up is a result of a new backlight zone being activated. There are 16 horizontal zones and 14 vertical zones for a total of 224 local dimming zones. The TV has Samsung's ultra viewing angle technology to enhance off-axis viewing, and it does just that. When viewed off-axis, there is the slightest loss of brightness, but contrast and color shifting remain absolutely minimal. This is some of the best off-axis viewing you'll get on an LCD TV. So after seeing all that, one has to wonder what the benefit of an 8K TV is in 2020, and in a 65-inch screen size, or even up to an 85-inch screen size for that matter, my answer would be not that much. So since there's no real 8K content right now, pretty much everything you watch on this TV will have to be upscaled. And at this point, with these sizes, the benefit of 8K over 4K is kind of called into question, and I personally don't see it, but you may feel differently. I mean, even when I compare the TV to LG C10 OLED, the picture looked very good and very contrasty and everything, but it wasn't necessarily better. So if you think about it, at the price of this TV, it has lower peak brightness than last year's 4K flagship, and also lower contrast performance because of the diminished amounts of full array local dimming zones than last year's 4K flagship. So in actuality, all you're paying for this increased cost over last year's 4K flagship model is just the 8K feature set. And since there's no actual 8K material now, then that kind of calls into question the actual benefit of having an 8K TV, especially one with only one HDMI 2.1 port. But we'll talk about that more in the review. I really think this TV could have made a better 4K set than an 8K TV, because with the same feature set at 4K, it would come in at a lower price and then would just be better, because there is no tangible difference or no tangible benefit I see for a 65-inch 8K TV over a 4K one. But if you're interested in finding out more about this TV, then I've left links in the description where you can check it out and other recommended TVs. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this TV and 8K in general, and make sure to stick around for the full review, because that is coming up very soon. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood Villaman saying be safe and peace.